How was I supposed to know that one little joke would destroy everything I'd built? I mean, seriously, Nathan had been acting like such a helpless baby lately, always asking me to drive him places, fix his phone, handle the bills. It was embarrassing. My friends at the gym were starting to notice, especially Troy. Your husband seems really dependent, Troy had mentioned last Tuesday, his perfectly sculpted arms flexing as he adjusted my weights. Like, doesn't he have his own car? That stung. Here I was, 34 years old, successful compliance officer at Henderson and Associates, and my husband was making me look like some kind of caretaker. Nathan worked as a building superintendent, not exactly impressive dinner party conversation, and lately, he'd been so quiet, so boring. When was the last time he'd made me laugh? When was the last time he'd surprised me with anything? So when Lila suggested we plan something fun for the weekend, I was all ears. What if we took him on a little adventure? She'd giggled over our group chat. You know, somewhere scenic. Film it for your socials. Like a prank, Gemma had typed back immediately. OMG, yes. Remember that TikTok where the wife hid her husband's car keys? Better, I'd responded, my fingers flying across the keyboard. What if we took him somewhere really remote? Like, make him figure out how to get back on his own. Might teach him some independence. The plan crystallized over the next few days. Cascade State Park was perfect, 40 miles outside town, beautiful hiking trails, and most importantly, no cell service in the main picnic areas. I'd drive Nathan out there for a romantic picnic, then slip away while he was distracted. Film his confusion, maybe get some footage of him wandering around looking lost. It would be hilarious. Are you sure about this? Sabine, my sister, had asked when I explained it to her. 40 miles is pretty far, Cal. He's a grown man, I'd snapped back. Besides, there's a ranger station. Worst case, he asks for help. It'll be good for him. Saturday morning arrived crisp and clear. I'd packed a cooler with sandwiches and drinks, charged my phone for maximum recording time, and even put on my cute hiking outfit, the one that made my legs look amazing. Nathan seemed surprised when I suggested the picnic, but pleased. Really? Just the two of us? He'd smiled, that shy smile that used to make my heart flutter, but now just reminded me how predictable he'd become. What about Ava? She's at Mum's, remember? Girls' weekend. I grabbed the car keys, already feeling the excitement building. Come on, it'll be fun. When's the last time we did something spontaneous? The drive to Cascade took about an hour, winding through increasingly remote forest roads. Nathan kept trying to make conversation, asking about my work, mentioning something about his building's boiler system, but I was focused on the plan. I'd already texted Troy that we were heading out, sent a few cryptic messages to the group chat. This was going to be epic. Wow, this place is really isolated, Nathan observed as we pulled into the parking area. Only 2 other cars in sight, and the nearest one looked like it had been there for days. No cell service either. Good thing you know the way back. Perfect. I almost laughed out loud. We found a picnic table near the trailhead, and I made a show of unpacking the food while Nathan wandered over to read the trail maps. This was my moment. I pulled out my phone, switched to video mode, and started recording. Hey everyone, I whispered to the camera, making sure to keep Nathan in frame. So I'm about to do something absolutely hilarious. My husband has been acting like such a helpless little kid lately, always needing me to drive him everywhere, fix his problems. Well, today he's going to learn some independence. Nathan was still studying the map, completely oblivious. He looked so serious, tracing the trails with his finger like he was planning some major expedition. God, he was boring. I'm going to leave him here, I continued, barely containing my giggles. 40 miles from home, no cell service, no car. Let's see how long it takes Mr. Helpless to figure out how to get back. I crept back to the car, keys already in my hand. Nathan didn't even notice until I was starting the engine. Cal, where are you going? He jogged over, looking confused. I thought we were having a picnic. Change of plans, I called out the window, holding up my phone to capture his expression. Time for you to show some initiative, honey. Figure out your own way home for once. His face went through several emotions: confusion, disbelief, then something that might have been hurt. But I was already backing out of the parking space, adrenaline pumping through my veins. Calandra, wait. See you when you get home, I shouted, then peeled out onto the forest road, leaving him standing there in a cloud of dust. I drove about a mile down the road before pulling over to check the footage. Perfect. You could see everything. His confused face, his mouth moving as he called after me, even the moment when he realized I was serious. This was going to get so many views. I immediately posted it to my Instagram story with the caption, "Teaching hubby some life skills, onion independence, oyin married life, olian prank war." Then I forwarded it to the group chat. "OMG, you actually did it," Lila responded within seconds. "His face," Gemma added. "You're terrible," Sabine wrote, but I could tell she was laughing too. I decided to grab lunch in town before heading home, give Nathan a few hours to really sweat it out. Maybe he'd call a cab, maybe he'd hitchhike. Either way, he'd learn that he couldn't depend on me for everything. At the diner, I kept checking my phone. The Instagram story was getting tons of views, and the comments were hilarious. "Your husband's face. This is why I stay single. He looks so confused, LMAO." Even Troy had viewed it, though he hadn't commented yet. I sent him a direct message. "Told you he was helpless." By the time I got home around 4 p.m., I was feeling pretty pleased with myself. The prank had been perfect, the social media response was amazing, and I'd finally done something to shake Nathan out of his boring routine. But when I pulled into our driveway, his car wasn't there. "Huh," I muttered, checking the time. It had been about 6 hours. Surely he should be home by now. I went inside, expecting to find him sulking on the couch or maybe taking a shower. But the house was empty, silent. A tiny flicker of unease started in my stomach, but I pushed it down. He was fine, probably just taking his time to make a point, maybe stopping for dinner to punish me with worry. Well, two could play that game. I ordered Chinese takeout and settled in to watch Netflix, checking my phone every few minutes. The Instagram story was still getting engagement, and I'd gained 15 new followers. Success. But as the hours ticked by, 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., the unease grew stronger. Where was Nathan? I woke up Sunday morning to an empty bed and a house that felt too quiet. Nathan's side hadn't been slept in, and his car still wasn't in the driveway. The Chinese takeout containers sat abandoned on the coffee table, a greasy reminder of my solitary evening. My phone showed 3 missed calls from Miriam, Nathan's mother. Great. The last thing I needed was her getting involved. "Calandra." Her voice was sharp when I called back. "Where's Nathan? He was supposed to help me move some furniture yesterday evening." "Oh, he's around," I said vaguely, suddenly not wanting to explain the prank. "Probably just forgot. You know how he is." "No, I don't know how he is. He's never missed an appointment with me, not once in 10 years, and he's not answering his phone." I felt a stab of irritation. Of course Miriam would make this about her. "His phone probably died. He'll turn up." "Calandra, what did you do?" The question hit like a slap. "Excuse me? I know my son, and I know you. What did you do?" I hung up on her, but her words stuck with me as I made coffee and tried to focus on anything else. What did I do? I taught my husband a lesson, that's what. I showed him that he couldn't just coast through life expecting me to handle everything. So, why did I feel so off? I checked Instagram again. The story from yesterday had been viewed over 200 times now, with dozens of comments. Most were laughing along with the joke, but a few made me uncomfortable. This seems really mean. 40 miles. That's not funny. Poor guy looks genuinely hurt. I deleted those comments quickly. People were so sensitive these days. It was just a harmless prank. My phone buzzed with a text from Lila. "Girl, people are talking about your video. It's everywhere." Everywhere. I quickly switched to TikTok and searched my username. Sure enough, someone had screen recorded my Instagram story and reposted it with the caption, "When your wife thinks abandonment is funny." It had 12,000 views. My stomach dropped. This wasn't supposed to go viral. It was meant to be a private joke among friends, maybe get some laughs from my followers. But now random strangers were commenting, and not all of them were amused. This is literally abuse. Imagine if the genders were reversed. Someone call this man's lawyer. I started damage control immediately, commenting back on the worst ones, explaining that it was just a joke between married couples, that Nathan was fine with it, that people needed to lighten up. But for every comment I addressed, 3 more appeared. And still no word from Nathan. By noon, I was genuinely starting to worry. Not about the social media thing, that would blow over in a day or two, but about where my husband actually was. 40 miles was a long walk, sure, but he'd had almost 20 hours now. Even if he'd decided to walk the whole way, he should have made it home by now. I called his phone again, straight to voicemail. "Hey, it's me," I said after the beep, trying to sound casual. "Hope you're having fun with your little adventure. Ava's asking where you are, so maybe head home soon? Love you." Ava wasn't actually asking. She was still at my mother's, but Nathan didn't need to know that. I spent the afternoon cleaning house, doing laundry, anything to keep busy, but every car that passed made me look up, hoping to see Nathan's beat-up Honda turning into the driveway. Around 4 p.m., Sabine called. "Cal, I've been thinking about yesterday," she said without preamble. "Maybe you should go back and get him." "What? Why?" "Because it's been like 24 hours and nobody's heard from him. What if something happened?" "Nothing happened," I said firmly. "He's a grown man. He can handle a little inconvenience." "A little inconvenience? You left him stranded in the middle of nowhere." "There was a ranger station," I protested, "and other hikers. He's fine." But even as I said it, doubt was creeping in. What if he'd gotten lost on the trails? What if he'd been hurt? The park was huge, thousands of acres of wilderness. People got lost in places like that all the time. "I'm going to drive out there," Sabine said, "just to check." "Don't you dare," I snapped. "You'll just make this whole thing seem worse than it is. Nathan needs to learn some independence, and if we go running after him every time things get difficult..." "Calandra, listen to yourself. You sound crazy." I hung up on her too, but as evening approached and Nathan still hadn't appeared, I started making contingency plans. If he wasn't home by morning, I'd have to do something. Maybe call the park rangers, report him as overdue from a hike. I could spin it as a romantic weekend getaway gone wrong, make myself look like the worried wife instead of the woman who'd deliberately abandoned her husband. The thought of having to explain this to authorities made my chest tight. How would I even begin? "Well, officer, I thought it would be funny to strand my husband 40 miles from home with no transportation." No, it wouldn't come to that. Nathan would be home soon, probably with some dramatic story about his ordeal, and we'd laugh about it later. This would become one of those crazy marriage stories we'd tell at parties. My phone buzzed. Text message from unknown number. "This is Nathan. I'm safe. Don't contact me." Relief flooded through me, followed immediately by indignation. Don't contact him? What kind of dramatic nonsense was that? I tried calling the number. It went straight to a generic voicemail message. I texted back, "Nathan, stop being ridiculous. Come home. We need to talk." No response. Another text arrived an hour later, this time from a number I recognized, our bank. "Alert. Your account ending in 4729 has been frozen due to suspicious activity. Please contact customer service immediately." My blood went cold. Account 4729 was our joint checking account, the one with my direct deposit, our mortgage payment, everything. I called the bank's emergency line, my hands shaking as I navigated the phone tree. Mrs. Vexley? Yes, we show that your account has been frozen at the request of the primary account holder. There appears to be some dispute about unauthorized transactions. Unauthorized transactions? What are you talking about? I'm sorry, but I can only discuss account details with the primary holder, which shows as Nathan Vexley. You're listed as a secondary user. That's impossible. I've had that account for 8 years. Ma'am, I can only tell you what our records show. You'll need to speak with Mr. Vexley or visit a branch with proper identification to resolve this. I stared at my phone after hanging up. Nathan had frozen our bank account. How is that even possible? And what unauthorized transactions? A horrible thought crept into my mind. Last week I'd moved some money around, transferred our emergency fund to a new savings account, one that only had my name on it. I'd been planning to surprise Nathan with a vacation fund, but with everything that had been happening with Troy at the gym, I'd started thinking maybe I needed some financial independence of my own. Had Nathan found out about the transfers? Is that what this was about? But how could he have frozen the account from wherever he was? And why that cryptic text message? I tried calling him again, but the number was disconnected. As I sat in my empty house that Sunday night, staring at my phone and waiting for answers that didn't come, I started to realize that maybe, just maybe, I didn't know my husband as well as I thought I did. Monday morning brought a new level of chaos I wasn't prepared for. I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. The TikTok video had exploded overnight, over 100,000 views and climbing. But worse than the numbers were the comments. Thousands of them, and they weren't laughing anymore. This woman is psychotic. Someone find this man and get him help. Imagine abandoning your spouse and thinking it's content. My hands shook as I scrolled through them. How had this gotten so out of control? It was supposed to be funny, a harmless prank between married people. But now, strangers were dissecting my relationship, calling me abusive, even threatening to report me to authorities. I started deleting comments as fast as I could, but more appeared instantly. The video had been shared to Reddit, Twitter, Facebook. There were reaction videos, commentary videos, even someone claiming to be a relationship expert, breaking down all the ways I was a terrible wife. My work phone started ringing at 7 a.m. Calandra. It was Janet, my supervisor at Henderson and Associates. We need to talk. Can you come in early today? Sure, but what's... Just come in. HR wants to see you. The line went dead. I stared at myself in the bathroom mirror, trying to figure out how everything had gone sideways so fast. 48 hours ago, I'd been a successful compliance officer with a stable marriage and a fun social media presence. Now I looked like some kind of viral villain, and my husband had apparently turned into a ghost who could freeze bank accounts from thin air. The drive to work was surreal. I kept expecting to see Nathan's car, kept checking my phone for messages that never came. The rational part of my brain knew he was fine. He'd texted me after all. But the silence was unsettling in a way I couldn't shake. At Henderson and Associates, Janet was waiting in the conference room with Marcus Webb from HR. The laptop on the table showed a frozen frame of my TikTok video, Nathan's confused face filling the screen. Sit down, Calandra, Janet said, her voice carefully neutral. Look, I know this looks bad, I started, but it's being blown way out of proportion. It was just a harmless prank between my husband and me. People are so sensitive these days. Harmless? Marcus interrupted. You abandoned your spouse 40 miles from home and filmed it for social media. Our compliance department handles ethics violations for other companies. How do you think this reflects on our professional judgment? It has nothing to do with work, I protested. This is my private life. Not when it goes viral, Janet said. We've had 3 clients call this morning, asking if we're the company that employs the woman who abandoned her husband. One is threatening to terminate their contract. My stomach dropped. They can't do that. This is completely separate from... The morality clause in your employment contract says otherwise, Marcus said, sliding a thick folder across the table. We're placing you on unpaid leave pending a full review. Unpaid leave? For how long? Until we determine whether your actions constitute a violation of professional standards. I wanted to argue, to explain that they were overreacting, that this would all blow over in a week, but the looks on their faces told me it was pointless. I cleaned out my desk in a daze, ignoring the stares and whispers from co-workers. Someone had definitely seen the video. Probably everyone had seen it by now. Back home, I tried calling Nathan's number again. Still disconnected. I drove to his workplace, a mid-rise apartment building downtown, where he worked as superintendent. The building manager, Mrs. Chen, met me in the lobby. "Oh, Calandra," she said, and something in her tone made me wary. "Nathan called this morning. He's taking some personal time." "Personal time? For how long?" "He didn't say, but he asked me to give you this." She handed me a manila envelope with my name written in Nathan's careful handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a USB drive. "Calandra," the letter read, "I need some time to think about our marriage. I'm staying somewhere safe, but I don't want to be contacted right now. The USB contains some things you should see. We'll talk when I'm ready. Nathan." My hands were trembling as I plugged the USB into my laptop back home. It contained a single folder labeled Insurance, with dozens of files inside. Screenshots of my Instagram story, the TikTok video, every comment, every share, every reaction video, but also things that made my blood run cold. Bank statements showing the emergency fund transfers, credit card applications I'd filled out in Nathan's name, even text messages between me and Troy. Messages where I'd complained about Nathan being boring and useless. Messages where Troy had encouraged me to do something about it. Messages where I'd described my plan to teach him a lesson at the state park. How had Nathan gotten these? My phone was password protected, and I'd never given him access to my social media accounts. But there was more. Screenshots of my group chat with Lila and Gemma, where we'd planned the whole prank. Photos of me and Troy at the gym, taken from security cameras. Even a map showing the exact route from our house to Cascade State Park, with timestamps and distances marked. At the bottom of the folder was a video file I didn't recognize. I clicked on it, and my heart stopped. It was dashcam footage from a truck, showing the highway near Cascade State Park. The timestamp showed Saturday evening, about 6 hours after I'd left Nathan. In the video, a figure was walking along the shoulder of the road, tall, lean, wearing the same clothes Nathan had been wearing that morning. But he wasn't stumbling or looking lost like I'd expected. He was walking with purpose, steady and determined. As the truck slowed down, I could see his face clearly. Sunburned, exhausted, but focused. Alert. The truck pulled over, and Nathan climbed into the passenger seat. I could hear the driver's voice through the dashcam audio. "You okay, buddy? You look like you've been walking for hours." 6 hours and 43 minutes, Nathan replied, his voice hoarse but steady. 41 miles, mostly on foot. "Jesus. What happened? Car breakdown?" There was a long pause before Nathan answered. "My wife thought it would be funny to strand me out here. Filmed it for social media." "She what?" "Left me at Cascade State Park with no transportation, no cell service. Posted a video calling me helpless." The truck driver was quiet for a moment. Then, "That's not funny, man. That's fucked up." "Yeah," Nathan said quietly. "Yeah, it is." The video continued for another few minutes, showing Nathan giving the driver directions to a motel on the other side of town. Not our house. A motel. I sat staring at the screen long after the video ended, my mind reeling. Nathan had walked 41 miles in 6 hours. That was impossible. Nobody could maintain that pace, especially not my quiet desk job husband who complained about his back after mowing the lawn. But the evidence was right there. The timestamps, the GPS data, the dashcam footage, it was all real. Who was my husband? The next few days passed in a blur of damage control and mounting panic. The TikTok video had reached 500,000 views, spawning countless reaction videos and think pieces about toxic marriage dynamics and social media narcissism. My Instagram had been flooded with messages ranging from concerned strangers asking about Nathan's welfare to angry feminists calling me a disgrace to women everywhere. I'd made my accounts private, but the damage was done. Screenshots lived forever on the internet. Wednesday morning brought a knock at my door that made my stomach drop. 2 police officers stood on my porch, looking official and serious. "Mrs. Vexley, I'm Officer Rodriguez. This is Officer Kim. We'd like to ask you some questions about a missing person report." "Missing person?" I tried to look confused. "I didn't file any missing person report." "No, ma'am. Your husband did. He reported himself as having been abandoned in a remote location by his spouse. We're following up on the incident." My mind raced. Nathan had reported me to the police. "I don't understand. It was just a prank. My husband is fine." "Can you tell us about Saturday afternoon at Cascade State Park?" There was no point in denying it. The video evidence was everywhere. I explained about the picnic, the prank, how it was meant to be harmless fun. The officers took notes, their expressions neutral, but somehow judgmental. "Mrs. Vexley, abandoning someone 40 miles from home in a remote area could be considered reckless endangerment," Officer Rodriguez said, "especially given the heat that day and the lack of cell service." "Reckless endangerment? It was a joke." "Your husband was treated for dehydration and heat exhaustion at Mercy General Urgent Care Saturday night," Officer Kim added, consulting her notes. The attending physician noted symptoms consistent with prolonged exposure and physical exertion. I felt the color drain from my face. Heat exhaustion? Nathan hadn't mentioned being sick, but then again, Nathan hadn't mentioned much of anything. "We'll be in touch," Officer Rodriguez said, handing me a card. "In the meantime, we'd recommend you contact a lawyer." After they left, I sat in my kitchen staring at the business card, my hands shaking. This was insane. People played pranks on their spouses all the time. There were entire YouTube channels dedicated to marriage pranks. How was this any different? My phone rang. Sabine. "Cal, we need to talk," she said without preamble. "I just got off the phone with Miriam." "Nathan's mom? What did she want?" "Ava. She wants to take Ava for a while until this whole thing gets sorted out." "Take Ava? What are you talking about?" "She's concerned about the environment at home. With Nathan missing and you all over social media." "Nathan's not missing, he's just being dramatic." "Calandra, listen to yourself. Your husband walked 40 miles through the wilderness because you abandoned him as a prank. The police are involved. You're on leave from work. This isn't some minor marital spat anymore." I wanted to argue, but the words stuck in my throat. When Sabine laid it out like that, it did sound bad. Really bad. "Miriam has a lawyer," Sabine continued. "She's filing for emergency custody if Nathan doesn't surface soon." "She can't do that. I'm Ava's mother." "And where is Ava right now?" I looked around my empty house. Ava had been at my mother's since Friday, originally just for a fun weekend with Grandma. But with everything that had happened, I'd kept putting off picking her up. "She's safe," I said weakly. "She's asking questions, Cal. She saw the video. Kids at school are talking about it. Do you have any idea how this is affecting her?" I hadn't thought about that. In all the chaos of the viral video and Nathan's disappearance, I'd somehow forgotten that our 7-year-old daughter might see this, might have questions about why Mommy left Daddy in the woods. "I need to fix this," I said, more to myself than to Sabine. "How?" "Nathan won't talk to you. The video is everywhere. Your job is in jeopardy. How exactly are you going to fix this?" I didn't have an answer. That afternoon, I drove to the gym hoping to find Troy. Maybe he could help me make sense of everything. We'd been flirting for weeks, and he'd been encouraging about the prank. Surely he'd understand that this was all just a misunderstanding blown out of proportion. But when I walked into the fitness studio, the conversation stopped. Every person in the room turned to look at me, and I realized with horror that they all knew who I was. "Is that her?" someone whispered. "The wife from the video?" "Oh my God, it is." Troy was leading a class in the main studio, but when he saw me through the glass, his face went pale. He said something to his students and walked over, pulling me aside. "Cal, what are you doing here?" "I need to talk to you. This whole thing has gotten out of hand and You can't be here," he said, looking around nervously. "My manager saw the video. He knows we've been talking. I could lose my job." "Talking? Troy, we've been more than talking. You encouraged me to do this. I never told you to abandon your husband in the wilderness." His voice was sharp, panicked. "I thought you meant hide his keys or something. Not strand him 40 miles from home. But the texts. What texts? I never texted you about any prank." I stared at him, confused. "Yes, you did. You said Nathan seemed helpless, that I should do something about it." "I said he seemed dependent. I never told you to do anything." Troy glanced around again, then pulled out his phone. "Look, I'm sorry this happened, but I can't be involved. I have a business to protect." As I watched him scroll through his messages, deleting our conversation thread, the reality of my situation finally hit me. I was alone in this. Nathan was gone, my job was in jeopardy, my friends were distancing themselves, and now even Troy was abandoning ship. I left the gym in a daze, ignoring the stares and whispered comments. In the parking lot, a man in a suit approached me. "Mrs. Calandra Vexley?" "Yes." He handed me a thick envelope. "You've been served." I tore it open with trembling fingers. Legal documents, dense with language I didn't understand, but the header was clear enough. Petition for legal separation and emergency custody motion. Nathan was divorcing me, and he was trying to take Ava away. The law office of Martinez and Associates was nothing like I'd expected. I'd pictured something sleek and modern, but instead found myself in a converted Victorian house with creaky floors and mismatched furniture. The lawyer I'd managed to hire on short notice, David Martinez, looked younger than me and spoke with the careful precision of someone who'd just passed the bar. "Mrs. Vexley, I have to be honest with you," he said, spreading the divorce papers across his desk. "This is not a typical separation case. Your husband has compiled quite a bit of evidence." "Evidence of what? That I played a prank on him?" "Evidence of abandonment, financial fraud, and what the court might consider emotional abuse." He opened a thick binder. "Let's start with the financial issues. Did you transfer approximately $15,000 from your joint emergency fund to a private account without your husband's knowledge?" My mouth went dry. "How did he— that money was for a vacation. I was going to surprise him." "Did you also open 3 credit cards using his name and social security number?" "Those were for household expenses. We're married. It's not fraud." Martinez looked skeptical. "Mrs. Vexley, your husband has bank statements, credit reports, and application documents. This isn't about marital finances. This appears to be systematic financial deception." He flipped to another section of the binder. Screenshots of my social media posts, text messages with my friends, even security camera footage from the gym showing me with Troy. "He's been spying on me," I said, anger flaring. "This is stalking behavior." Actually, most of this information was publicly available or legally obtainable. Your social media posts were public, the bank records are from joint accounts, and the gym footage was provided voluntarily by the establishment. The gym gave him security footage. Why would they do that? Martinez consulted his notes. "According to the documentation here, your friend Troy Madsen provided a statement to your husband's attorney. He also turned over text messages between you two discussing the prank at the state park. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. Troy had not only abandoned me, he'd actively helped Nathan build a case against me. What kind of statement? He claims you asked him to participate in humiliating your husband, that you wanted to impress him by proving how helpless Nathan was. He also provided evidence of your affair. We didn't have an affair. We just flirted a little, maybe went for coffee. Mrs. Vexley, there are photos of you two in what appears to be intimate conversation, text messages with romantic undertones, and witness statements from other gym members about your relationship. I slumped in my chair. Even if Troy and I hadn't technically crossed any lines, it certainly looked like we had. And in a divorce proceeding, appearance was probably all that mattered. What about Nathan? I demanded. He disappeared for days without telling me where he was. He froze our bank accounts. He's trying to take my daughter away from me. What about his behavior? He documented everything, Martinez said simply. He stayed at a motel for 3 days, paid with his own credit card, and has receipts for all expenses. He froze the joint account only after discovering the unauthorized transfers, which is within his rights as the primary account holder, and the custody motion is temporary, based on what the court considers an unstable home environment. Unstable? I'm not unstable. You're currently on unpaid leave from your job due to this incident. You're facing possible criminal charges for reckless endangerment. Your social media presence has generated national attention, most of it negative. From the court's perspective, that could constitute an unstable environment for a child. The room felt like it was spinning. Criminal charges? The police said they were just investigating. The district attorney's office has opened a file. Abandoning someone in a remote location under dangerous conditions can be prosecuted as reckless endangerment or even assault, depending on the circumstances. I thought about Nathan walking 40 miles in the heat, ending up in urgent care with dehydration. Had I really put him in danger? It was supposed to be funny, a harmless lesson in self-reliance. I need to talk to him, I said. If I could just explain. Your husband has a restraining order pending, Martinez interrupted. He's claiming harassment and threatening behavior. Threatening behavior? I never threatened him. According to his statement, you've called him over 50 times in the past week, sent numerous text messages, showed up at his workplace, and attempted to contact him through family members. The court considers that harassment. 50 times? Had it really been that many? I'd been trying to reach him, sure, but only because this whole situation was ridiculous, and we needed to talk like adults. Martinez closed the binder and looked at me seriously. Mrs. Vexley, I need you to understand something. Your husband isn't just some bumbling superintendent who got lost in the woods. According to his employment records and military service history, he's a former Army land navigation specialist. He spent 8 years teaching survival and terrain analysis to other soldiers. The words hit me like a sledgehammer. Military service? Nathan was never in the military. He served from 2003 to 2011, deployed twice to Afghanistan as part of a reconnaissance unit. He has commendations for land navigation and survival training. I stared at him, my mind reeling. Nathan had never mentioned military service, not once in our 10 years of marriage. How was that possible? That's impossible, he would have told me. According to his statement, he did tell you early in your relationship. You apparently found it boring and asked him not to talk about it anymore. A vague memory surfaced, Nathan trying to tell me some story about basic training or deployment, me rolling my eyes and changing the subject because I thought military stories were tedious. Had I really dismissed such a huge part of his life? The point is, Martinez continued, when you left him at that state park, you weren't stranding some helpless suburban husband. You were challenging a man with extensive wilderness survival training. He walked 41 miles in 6 hours because he's physically and mentally capable of doing so, and he documented every step of the journey. Documented how? GPS tracking from his watch, photos of landmarks, even a detailed log of his route and timing. He treated it like a military exercise because that's what he's trained to do. I felt sick. All this time, I'd been thinking of Nathan as weak, dependent, boring. But he was actually, what? Some kind of trained soldier who'd been hiding his capabilities. Why would he pretend to be helpless? I asked. According to his statement, he wasn't pretending. He was trying to be a supportive husband by letting you handle things you wanted to control. When you insisted on driving him places, he went along with it. When you managed the finances, he trusted you. He thought he was being considerate. So this is all my fault? Mrs. Vexley, your husband has a video of you abandoning him. Witness statements from multiple people, financial records showing deception, and evidence of an extramarital relationship. He also has a spotless military record and 8 years of exemplary employment. In a custody battle, who do you think the court is going to favor? I didn't answer. I couldn't. My advice, Martinez said gently, is to accept whatever settlement he offers, because if this goes to trial, you're going to lose everything. The courthouse felt like a cathedral of judgment as I walked through the metal detectors, my heels clicking against marble floors that had witnessed countless lives torn apart. 3 weeks had passed since Nathan served me with papers, and in that time, my entire world had crumbled. The TikTok video now had over 2 million views. Someone had created a Wikipedia page about the incident. There were memes, reaction videos, and even a segment on a morning talk show about toxic social media behavior in relationships. I'd become the poster child for everything wrong with modern marriage. Henderson and Associates had officially terminated my employment. The morality clause in my contract, combined with the negative publicity affecting their client relationships, made my position untenable. 10 years of building my career, gone because of one stupid prank. Worse, the district attorney had decided to press charges. Reckless endangerment in the second degree, carrying a possible sentence of up to 1 year in jail. My new criminal defense lawyer, Martinez had referred me to a specialist, was confident we could plead down to community service, but the conviction would be permanent. I sat in the courtroom waiting area, watching Nathan through the glass doors of the mediation room. He looked different somehow, straighter, more confident, like he'd been wearing a mask for years and finally taken it off. Beside him sat Miriam, holding Ava's hand. My daughter looked small and confused, her dark hair pulled back in the careful braid that Miriam always did better than I could. She hadn't spoken to me in 2 weeks, not since the kids at school started asking her about the mean mommy video. Mrs. Vexley, the mediator, a stern woman in her 60s, gestured for me to join them. We're ready to begin. Nathan's lawyer was a sharp-dressed woman named Patricia Hoffman, who looked like she ate opposing counsel for breakfast. She had the same thick binder I'd seen in Martinez's office, but somehow it looked even more intimidating in her manicured hands. Let's start with the custody arrangement, she said without preamble. My client is seeking primary physical custody of Ava, with supervised visitation for Mrs. Vexley. Supervised visitation? I couldn't keep the shock out of my voice. She's my daughter. Your daughter has been staying with her paternal grandmother for 3 weeks because of the unstable environment in your home, Hoffman replied calmly. She's been receiving counseling to help her process the trauma of seeing her father publicly humiliated and abandoned. Trauma? It was just a prank. Nathan spoke for the first time since I'd entered the room. Ava saw the video, Calandra. Kids at school were laughing about it. She asked me if Mommy didn't love Daddy anymore. His voice was quiet but steady, and something in his tone made me realize how much I'd underestimated him. This wasn't the passive, accommodating man I'd married. This was someone else entirely. The supervised visitation can be revisited in 6 months, Hoffman continued, provided Mrs. Vexley completes court-mandated therapy and anger management classes. Anger management? I don't have anger issues. You abandoned your spouse in a wilderness area and filmed it for entertainment, the mediator said dryly. The court considers that relevant to your fitness as a parent. We moved through the settlement terms methodically. Nathan would keep the house. He could afford the mortgage on his superintendent's salary, and I couldn't without my job. I would keep my car and my personal belongings. The joint accounts would be split evenly, minus the $15,000 I'd transferred without permission, which would go entirely to Nathan as restitution. "What about the credit cards?" Martinez asked, sounding calm even as my stomach tightened. "Mrs. Vexley will assume full responsibility for all debt incurred on accounts opened without Mr. Vexley's consent," Hoffman replied, "approximately $23,000. My throat went dry. I'd told myself it was maybe $5,000, just shopping, just a few charges, nothing permanent. Then the memories came back in ugly flashes, the cash advances, the balance transfers, the little temporary moves I'd made while convincing myself I was smarter than the system. Hoffman didn't stop. Finally, there's the restraining order. The mediator slid the document toward me. Nathan wanted a permanent order of protection, no contact unless through lawyers, and only supervised visitation with Ava. Martinez tried to protest, but Hoffman cut him off with a list that landed like a verdict. Over 200 calls in 3 weeks, showing up at his workplace, his mother's house, Ava's school, fake accounts after he blocked me. I checked my call log and felt sick. She was right. I hadn't been reaching out. I'd been stalking, chasing, insisting the truth mattered more than his boundaries. "The restraining order is non-negotiable," Nathan said quietly. "I need to feel safe. Safe. From me." That word broke something in my chest. I looked at him and realized he wasn't the bumbling husband I'd dismissed for years. He was controlled, prepared, finished. The mediator reviewed the deal. "I sign, I accept custody terms, I take the debt, I agree to the order." In return, Nathan wouldn't pursue additional damages and would support leniency in my criminal case. Trial meant everything: fraud, adultery, that video, witnesses, including my own sister and mother. The room felt like it had turned its back on me at once. My hand shook as I signed. In the parking lot, I grabbed Nathan's arm and begged for 5 minutes. He looked at me with tired pity. During that walk home, he said, "I realized I wasn't boring. You were just cruel." He drove away with Miriam and Ava. My daughter stared at me through the window like I was a stranger. I stood alone holding papers that proved what I'd refused